Okay, we are officially live. We'll just wait a second here for some people to start to load on.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
How's everyone doing out there tonight? Lovely Monday night, first week of March. And this is Facebook Live, and we are also simulcasting, my favorite word, with TikTok. And welcome to our program. My name is John Gardner, and this is my wife and law partner, Radlin Mendoza, and we are
Hey
the
guys,
immigration
welcome back.
law firm, Gardner and Mendoza Immigration Law. And we come to you every Monday night at 8 o'clock, well, almost every Monday at 8 o'clock, to give you immigration updates and to answer your questions. If you have any immigration questions, whether they're specific questions or whether it's just general questions about immigration law or legislation that's pending, that kind of thing, please come on, let us know, get your questions posted, and we will get to them. And we have a lot of people that come to us through TikTok. So hello, everyone on TikTok out
Hey
there
guys.
in the TikTok world. Same thing, get your questions posted up there. One request for the TikTok folks, just put it in, please, because when you post it, then we lose questions. We go first come, so just get your question in there.
First come, first serve. I like that.
First come, first serve. That's right. Just like Dairy Queen.
What?
Yeah, you know, first person, first ice cream cone, right?
I am sharing with my personal Facebook page, so let's go. We have a couple of updates. You know, did we?
I have a disclaimer. Is that what you were gonna say?
Yeah. The disclaimer.
The
Yes,
disclaimer is that what we do here is for informational and educational purposes only.
And entertainment purposes.
And entertainment, that's right.
Depending on what
we
kind
added
of
that.
Entertainment, like some people like hearing a married couple talk.
That's right.
About immigration.
To be sure, one thing that we don't do here is give legal advice, right?
That is right.
This is not legal advice, okay?
Is educational information.
This person here saying, hi, Mr. Mendoza, how you doing? All right.
So John and I are married. Did you mention that?
I did mention that.
Yeah. We've been together for many years. We have 3 children, and our law firm has been in business for 20 years. So we decided that this year, 2025, we are celebrating our law firm's 25th anniversary.
Right.
And we hit 20 during COVID, and we did not celebrate because of COVID. But this year, we are going to celebrate for sure.
And I chuckled at that because I'm Gardner, Ms. Mendoza.
Mr. Gardner.
Miss
Mendoza.
But all through my career, many of my clients have thanked me and said, thank you so much, Mr. Mendoza. And I always just say, you're welcome. Funny joke with us.
Yes. What?
567
documentary qualified.
I got DQ last month. I wanted to provide more evidence to. Do I just bring it during the? Oh, DQ. You're right. I thought she was talking about Dairy Queen because we first serve.
Right.
Yeah. Oh no, we're only answering questions about Dairy Queen tonight.
No, that's not true. You've already read the question. We will get to your question. We are going to make.
We will get to your question.
Couple of and finish the question too because it cut off. We are going to make a couple of just.
It is here.
Okay. Well, let's read the questions. You open the door.
Right. Okay.
Right. You know, when lawyers open the door, we need to follow through.
Okay.
Hey guys.
Hi guys. I got DQ, not Dairy Queen, last month. I want to provide more evidence. Do I just bring it during the interview? Question.
Yes, that is correct. Bring it to the interview. Unless there are specific instructions about uploading, I know that no, you need to bring it to the interview because documentarily qualified DQ also stands for documentarily qualified, also stands for Dairy Queen. And when you're documentarily qualified, that means that National Visa Center says, hey, we have all that we need to schedule you for the interview. And so you will be bringing those additional documents to the interview, and anything that needs to be updated, guys, please bring to your interview. if it's been a couple of years since you've updated the affidavit report, go ahead and have your petitioner do a new affidavit report. And this is, and sign it and provide the most recent tax returns, W-2, pay stub to show that your sponsor and or any joint sponsor is still qualified to be your sponsor, affidavit of support sponsor, financial sponsor, or your joint sponsor. So that is really important. Yes, bring those updated documents to the interview. If you don't bring documents to the interview, updated documents, and they ask for it, then they will ask you to upload it to the system. But this is a much more efficient way. I know that many people who are out there who have been waiting for interviews, people have been waiting for an interview for years and years and years and years, depending on what category you're under. And this is a great opportunity to just make sure you go through that checklist, make sure if there's anything that needs to be updated and signed by your petitioner. Do that. It's a really great question. All right. So, first question answered right off the bat. I'm feeling good about that.
And the roofer here on TikTok says, "You're my lawyer." Great. We're glad that we're.
Ooh, all right. Hey, so the roofer, we met some Carpenter Union 205 unions Carpenter 205 a couple of days, and everyone's eligible to join the union.
Mhm.
It was cool. It was we definitely got a lot of information and educated about that whole process. So check out the Carpenters Union number 205.
Yeah.
If you're in.
And thanks to them for coming by to talk to us. That was cool. So we are going to answer more questions, but before we get to the questions, one of the things that we also hear is keeping the community, the public, updated on immigration news and things that are going on. One of the things that I wanted to talk about in Virginia here is an executive order. We have been talking for about a month now, at least 4 weeks, about immigration scrutiny that's out there and how important it is to be careful with the things that you're doing so that you're not landing on law enforcement radar. We've gotten some pushback. I mean, I've gotten some nasty comments on TikTok here and there.
Don't care.
Saying, "Oh, you guys are aiding and abetting, illegal immigrants and this kind of thing," whatever. That's not really what it's about, because a lot of the people that are going to be ensnared in some of this trouble are people that are actually in a lawful process, but maybe are not finished with it and are going to find themselves, getting more scrutiny than they need, having unnecessary hassle that they don't need, maybe having to actually go to immigration court when it's unnecessary. So, really, that's what we're trying to avoid, and that's why we've been telling people weeks now to carry documents with you if you're in a process. Anything you have, if you have a lawyer, whether it's us or any other immigration attorney, I think it's wise to have that information so that law enforcement you're dealing with in that moment will see that, hey, this person's in immigration process right now. Oh, this is their immigration attorney they've been working with. Okay, I'm going to leave them alone. Whatever. I don't know exactly what they're doing, but they're doing something good enough for me. Okay, that's a lot better than nothing. The other advice that I've been giving, and I give to everyone, including our children, including my friends, including myself, is don't unnecessarily put yourself in an interface with law enforcement. So anything you can do to avoid that. So make sure your inspection stickers are up to date, that your license plate tags are up to date, that you don't have a bunch of stuff hanging from your rearview mirror that gives the officer a reason to pull you over, because they can, because it's obstructing your view. It's a safety issue. They actually can pull you over for that and charge you. And I know people like to have their dice and boxing gloves and flags and whatever.
That's from the 80s.
Our neighbor had them.
Okay, you're right. He had the dice. Yeah, you're right.
Dice. So
he's a kid.
He was. So, avoid those kind of things. Avoid a domestic disturbance in your home that the neighbor calls the police or loud music police come out. Or coming out of a bar drunk, being loud and getting in a fight at 2 o'clock in the morning. These are all the kinds of things that will put you with a police officer or a state trooper or a sheriff's deputy, and then you potentially have a problem. So just be careful. That's all I'm saying. All right. So with that in mind, what's happened in Virginia recently?
Yeah, and not just Virginia. We didn't have the opportunity before tonight to figure out what other states have this, what John's about to talk about.
Right.
And it is again vitally important. Just listen up, and if this information is useful to you or to someone you may know, please make sure that you share this and like and follow us to get more updated information.
Yeah,
this is up to date. This is just from this week.
Our office is physically located in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and so this is a Virginia executive order. Radlin's right. Next week we'll update a list of states, but if you're in another state, with a Google search, you could probably find out if something like this is going on in your state. It's good to know. So there's an executive order that was just signed by our governor, Governor Youngkin, on the 27th of February. It's executive order number 47. It's titled Keeping Virginians Safe from Dangerous Criminal Illegal Immigrants. And this story starts back in 1996, actually, because that is when the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act of 1996, you might know that as IRA, it added a section 287G to the INA, the Immigration and Nationality Act. And that section authorized U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, you all know, to delegate to state and local law enforcement officers the authority to perform specified immigration officer functions under the agency's direction and oversight. So what does that mean? Well, that means, immigration is federal law, and ICE is enforcing federal immigration law, right? Most criminal law is state law. So when you're dealing with like traffic laws and criminal laws, for the most part, that's state. I mean, there's federal criminal law as well. When you're dealing like with a Virginia Beach police officer or a Virginia state trooper, that's a state law enforcement officer. And typically the two are separated. State law enforcement officers are dealing with state law, or if you're in a city like Virginia Beach, the police officers are enforcing Virginia Beach criminal and traffic laws. And immigration is just federal. What this section did was it gave ICE the authority to basically authorize training for these local law enforcement officers so that they can assist in enforcing federal immigration law. Okay?
Right.
So you see where we're going with this, right?
You see where they're going with this, right?
You see where they're going with this, right? So this executive order, I'm just going to read some of it that's important here. It talks about IRA in section 287G and talks about what we just talked about a second ago. And it basically, delegation of authority agreement promotes the identification. They're saying it promotes the identification, arrest, and removal of criminal illegal immigrants who are subject to removal from the United States, thereby protecting the homeland from individuals who undermine the safety of our nation's communities. So, talking about public safety now, we're talking about local law enforcement officers who have now been deputized by ICE to help enforce federal immigration law. This is why I'm saying do not put yourself in a situation where you're dealing with law enforcement if you can, okay?
And it's primarily going to come up, would you say, in traffic incidents a lot of the times? Calls to homes?
It's going to come up, yeah. Traffic stops is going to be number one. Number two is going to be, calls to homes where there's like been a domestic dispute. Somebody's reporting there's drug use, that kind of thing. And then the cops come out, and that's where you might have a problem here. This can be worse. Our executive order from our governor is not as expensive as I suspect some of the other ones are, because it falls a little bit short of local law enforcement at this point. But it says that basically he talks about President Trump's executive order 14159, that executive order required ICE, ready for this, requires ICE through Section 287G, those that agreement or otherwise, and to maximize the extent permitted by law to authorize state and local law enforcement officials as the Secretary of Homeland Security determines are qualified and appropriate under Section 287G of the Immigration and Nationality Act. So Trump's executive order is basically telling these folks, this is what you need to be doing. It used to just be something they could ask for. Now we have the president giving an executive order saying, hey, folks, you need to be authorizing, allowing ICE to authorize 287G local and state law enforcement to be assisting in enforcing and identifying violations of immigration law. So Section 287G agreements enable them to take more proactive measures in protecting Virginians and to address criminal immigration matters at the source. So this is now where you're going to have this where you're dealing face to face with an officer and they have more authority than they did on February 26th before this executive order was signed. All right. Here's specifically what it orders. Number one, the second two here I'm going to read, but they're not as important.
And again, what John is discussing and about to read is no doubt going to be enforced in many other states, not just for it to be in your state, right? So it's important because it's very similar to what probably is already out there in other states or to come.
Right. So here's what Glenn Youngkin, our governor, did. He said, I hereby direct the Virginia State Police to enter into a 287G task force model memorandum of understanding with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. This agreement will provide for Section 287G VSP task force of federally deputized officers to assist in the identification and apprehension of criminal illegal immigrants who pose a risk to public safety throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. Let me just tell you, when they say pose a risk to public safety, that means basically anyone that they think is in the country illegally. So,
yeah, that's what I was going to ask. It says criminal illegal aliens, right? And what if it's a speeding ticket?
I personally think, based on my experience, having done criminal defense work for almost 20 years, I think the folks that have been deputized to the section are going to feel justified at any traffic stop if they are suspicious about a person's immigration status of asking questions about it, making determinations about it, and then taking necessary action if they think it's warranted. And that would include taking them into custody and contacting ICE to see if they want to come put a hold on the person, a detainer.
Yeah. Do we think that's something that could happen if it is a traffic infraction? I mean,
think so.
to take someone out of the car and bring them to the magistrate's office or the jail, like.
I think so. The traffic stop wouldn't, it's not a jailable offense.
I keep asking about speeding because this is not a jailable offense.
Not a jailable offense.
Right.
Well, we've seen situations like this before. We were at this point post 9/11. For those of you who remember those days, in the immediate year or two after 9/11, we had a lot of very, very, very strict immigration enforcement. It was the most intense. It's getting intense now, but it was even more intense then. I mean, it's just ramping up right now. It might get more intense eventually.
Yeah.
But we saw this once before, and what started to happen was traffic stop was a routine traffic stop, not a jailable offense. But once the immigration status became an issue, then it became an immigration matter in the eyes of the officer, who, by the way, I just told you under this 287G from IRIRA has now been given the authority to make these determinations about immigration and what they should do about it. And so, yeah, I would be very concerned if I were out there and I had a pending immigration case. And I say pending immigration case because I don't want anyone to misconstrue this, that only somebody who is undocumented has any jeopardy here, because I think people that are in a process are at risk of having a hard time. Okay.
Yep.
So that's why I want you to make sure that you're carrying whatever you have, identification with the local address on it, any paperwork that you have with immigration, like I said, any correspondence you have or a card with the immigration attorney that you're working with, I think is helpful. Driving privilege card, if you can't get a driver's license yet, you can have a driving privilege card in Virginia, and I know a lot of other states have the same thing. All of those are helpful. The other two things that he directed involved basically a jail enforcement memorandum. This is the same thing, but this just requires the jails to, if they suspect that somebody who has been arrested comes in, even if the officer who arrested them didn't make it an issue, if the sheriff's department decides that they think that there's an immigration issue, they're authorized to hold the person, like they might otherwise, you know, otherwise maybe the magistrate says, oh, this person had a reckless driving or they had an assault and battery, I'm going to give them a bond and let them out. But if the sheriff's deputy decides, wait, I've been deputized under 287G, I think this person is in the country unlawfully, we're going to hold them until ICE can put a hold on them.
Yeah.
Okay.
It happened a lot after 9/11.
It happened a lot after 9/11.
We deal with this a lot.
Yep. Yeah. So they're about ready to bond out. They post their bond. They think they're leaving the jail. You know, they have to wait now to see if ICE puts a detainer on them. Which brings me to the third thing that this orders. Third thing that it ordered is for all the jails in Virginia basically to confirm that they are cooperating with ICE and enforcing detainers. So even after 9/11, it was hit or miss. Some jails were all hot and heavy to do the detainers. Some jails
Let people go.
let people go anyway, even when I say, hey, hold this person temporarily, come pick them up in 2 days, the jails would just let them out anyway. They didn't have enough beds, there was a hassle, or they just weren't cooperating, whatever the case.
Right.
This is ordering these jails to certify that they are complying with these ICE holds. So these second two, I'm hoping that all of you out there are not following any of these categories by being in jail in the first place. But the first, be careful.
Yeah.
Okay?
So if let me go back to the speeding. Okay. If I'm speeding, I get pulled over. I have a driver's privilege card. People who have a driver's privilege card, state troopers know in Virginia what a driver's privilege card is and who gets a privilege card, right? But I'm not committing a crime. I'm committing a traffic infraction. I'm going to get a citation. They start asking me about my immigration status. What do I do?
Well, you don't have to answer any questions. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
any other law enforcement situation. If you're in your house, you don't have to answer the door. You can just look through the no, thank you.
I just went over this with one of our daughters about this very thing about not answering the door. Anyway, but
We just want to come in and ask you a few questions. No.
and so in this scenario with the car, I would also argue that no, I don't have to answer any questions about my immigration status because listening to this, I haven't committed a crime, right? This is for criminal undocumented immigration
Yes.
immigrants, and I don't follow that. A speeding ticket or
Right. So your expectation of privacy is not as strong in a car as it is in your house. Your house is like, your castle. No one can come in unless they have a warrant. Once you're out there on the road in a car, you give up some of that expectation of privacy because now you have entered into the public thoroughfares and you are out there in the public and you're subject to the laws out there and so forth. So they can pull you over if they think that, you committed a crime, and that would include something as simple as an expired inspection sticker. My concern is once somebody starts talking to you, if they suspect that there is an immigration problem, you're going to feel a lot of pressure to answer those questions. But rather than right, you're not required to. They keep pushing it. You can just simply say, "My information is on my driving privilege card. If you want to give me a ticket, give me the ticket, but I don't want to answer more
Am
questions.
I free to go?
This. Am I free to go?"
Right. And that's tough to do. And it's kind of a damned if you do and a damned if you don't type situation sometimes. It's on a case by case basis because you don't want to answer any questions. That must mean that you're documented, right? You have the driver's privilege card plus refusal to answer any immigration questions. Let's come on in based on this 287G memorandum. So just be careful out there.
I worked with a lot of police officers and I worked with a lot of state troopers. And, it's a little bit luck of the draw, but at least in the areas that I worked here in Virginia, I think if you have some documentation with an address and other paperwork, you're going to be absolutely fine. Most state troopers that I worked with were pretty busy and they mostly wanted to be able to check off the boxes. They just wanted to make sure the summons had a local address on it. That was the big thing with law enforcement. They weren't really gung ho to go down any other road, pardon the pun. So I think most of them, even if they suspect, like, I don't know, driving privilege card, that's a little odd. Why doesn't he just have a driver's license? I don't know, but he's got a local address. I'm not, getting any other prior outstanding warrants for this guy. I'm going to just give him his ticket and let him go because it's a hassle. Taking somebody into custody is a hassle for them. Whereas I think when you're dealing with enforcement, you're much more likely to have more of a hassle from the law enforcement officer. The state troopers tend to like to stay out on the highway.
All right. Well, thank you for that update. That was a good one.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, let's answer a couple of questions on TikTok.
Okay. Sorry, everyone. I took a chunk of our time there, but
No, that's okay.
I want everybody to be aware of this and to be aware that this isn't just random news stories. This, at least in Virginia, is an executive order now. So, and it's in effect until it's rescinded or superseded by a new executive order. Okay. Lotto Miki wants to know, what's your advice on traveling on advance parole?
So, traveling on advance parole, you can travel on advance parole, but do read the warnings on the advance parole, and I would really consult with your attorney, your immigration attorney, to go over all of your history and your facts of your immigration, and just make sure that yes, even right now under this administration, your attorney says, I believe that you are still okay to travel. But I can't answer that question. I don't know what your immigration history is. And that's definitely something you want to take up with your immigration attorney. And if you don't have an immigration attorney now, then you ought to get one. You ought to lawyer up. If you don't have an immigration attorney during this period in the United States, when are you ever going to get one? Right? Now is the best time to get an immigration attorney with everything. And I'm not fear mongering. I'm just telling the truth, right? I mean, we're immigration attorneys. We represent and have represented since the year 2000 thousands of people, families, businesses, and they've come to us for help for this immigration process. Now, it is true that you do not need an immigration attorney to assist with your immigration case. But why do we have immigration attorneys? Right? Because there are pitfalls that you don't even know are there when you're filing your case. So now more than ever, because this administration is looking through immigration cases very, very closely, right? People coming in, they're permanent residents, maybe they have some criminal record that's done and gone with, disposed of, you thought it was over. It's gonna come back on you potentially when you're coming back in to the United States after a visit, when you've already done the visit, you've traveled since your incident. And I'm not just talking about people with a record. I'm talking about people who may have been wrongly accused, right? You ever hear any stories about people wrongly accused of crimes? And it can happen. So advanced parole is basically means, you filed an immigration process. As part of that process, you've asked for permission to travel outside of the United States, and that advanced parole allows you to come back in. You got to be careful with that when you're traveling outside of the United States when you're doing the immigration process, especially right now. So I know that I didn't answer your question, but I'm actually glad I didn't answer your question directly because I don't know enough about your case to give you a great answer. You need a great answer because your immigration case, your life here, the reason why you filed for immigration in the first place is super important, right? And you don't want to just grab an answer on TikTok, even though we are immigration attorneys, look like immigration attorneys, right? You need to go and speak with an immigration attorney, and it can be us as well. So,
And all you folks on TikTok who are watching,
thanks for the love, thanks for the hearts. Really
we're
appreciate
looking at a Facebook screen down here. So in case you're wondering why we're not looking
I
at
should
you,
have been looking up there because you asked the question,
yeah,
and the
I just
TikTok screen is just so much nicer, right? It must be the filter or something. Like,
yeah,
is it
maybe.
just nice? Like,
Yeah,
and all
Radman
the
is right.
hearts,
I mean, yeah, I mean, Radman really knows your stuff, so you're not going to find more immigration expertise anywhere. So give her a call. Give us a call.
Yeah, 757-464-9224, and the information is in the TikTok bio.
And she's right. That's one of the reasons that we always have the disclaimer that this is not legal advice, other than the fact that the Virginia State Bar requires that we do it. We would do it anyway because we're dealing with these small snippets of question. And there's just so many things in your case that so many little wrinkles and details that we don't know. It would be absolutely insane and malpractice for us to be trying to give you an exact answer to your question. Because when you hire us to represent you, we do a deep dive. We make sure that we know every single detail, every fact, every stone is being turned over before we film anything, because we want to make sure that there's no hidden pitfalls that you're about to fall into.
Yeah, we even asked to see all of your tattoos before we file that immigration case. We don't ask to see the tattoos. We ask if you have any tattoos, and then depending on what they are, we might want to see them, take pictures of them. So, all right, let me grab a question here.
There are tattoos that are very similar to certain gang tattoos, and
Yes.
they can derail your case, even though you're not in a gang. Just similar tattoos. Go figure.
Okay, Alma says, hello, ma'am, sir. Hello. Just asking how much the cost to follow my petition of my son. It's approved. It's been approved since last 2016. Since then, you have not heard anything. Just asking how much it is going to cost. So, Ms. Alma, thank you so much for the question. I'm not sure how much it's going to cost as far as our legal fees are concerned. We do not quote legal fees without first consulting with the potential client. And so we charge $295 for a consultation. If it's something where we can help you with the case and you want to hire us to do the case for you, then we will credit that $295 back towards your legal fees. But what I'm seeing here is, I don't know whether your son is married, you're a U.S. citizen, whether he's single, whether he's over 21. What is the priority date? It's been since 2016, 2025 now, right? That's been 9 years. So we would have to look at all of that and see where you are in the process. But our consultation fee is $395. And if we can help you and you would like to allow us to help you and continue our services, we would credit that back to you. Hopefully that answers your question, Salma. All right, another question. While you are looking at that, I just wanted to share an announcement that that a House lawmakers introduced a bill on Wednesday that will create a legal pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants. Typically, these are going to be the DACA folks that were brought to the United States as children. It's been reintroduced, called the American Dream and Promise Act of 2025, and it would also set up citizenship pathways for people with TPS or deferred enforced departure. So um, we will absolutely keep you up to date on what's happening here. We all know bills being introduced. We all know that this has happened before. Um, I don't know how it's going to go. I mean, I have a feeling of how it's going to go because of our the House and Senate, and but we'll see.
Yeah, this will be an interesting one to watch because, for you, those of you who have followed this, the DACA football, this has been a group that the public is very sympathetic toward, and rightfully so. But Dreamers have always been attached to much broader immigration bills. They've always used as a bargaining chip or a wedge, one side or the other, to get leverage at the time that they were looking for it. And we've always said, gosh, if Congress just passed a standalone bill, it might actually work. Just take the Dreamers out of all this broader immigration reform talk and just have a standalone skinny bill, let it go through with just them. That could get some momentum. We'll see.
We'll
We'll
see,
see.
and we'll absolutely keep you posted about what happens.
I agree that the odds of this would have been better a couple years ago than they are right now. I think, I don't want to get too political here, but I think there could even be people and members of Congress who might otherwise be willing to get on board with this, but may fear pushback from the administration, and they want to make sure they're not burning any bridges with the administration. So they may be a little more toe in the water here to sort of see what the White House is saying about this. But I'll tell you what, if they hear enough from their constituents, they may feel emboldened to do it. So if this is an important issue for you, you know how our system works. Get a hold of your congressperson and let them know that you support this, and get your neighbors, friends to do it. If they get enough heat, they will
It
worry.
is super important.
They'll worry about their own reelection, and that'll obviously be more powerful than anything to them.
All right, did you have a question for us?
Yeah. Kim wants to know, my dad's a resident here in the US, I'm assuming a permanent resident, and
Yep.
he just pleaded guilty to a DUI on February 11th.
Okay.
Can he travel?
So a DUI is not typically, it's not. It's not something that makes a lawful permanent resident inadmissible to the United States. So if it's a one conviction, right? It's a conviction for DUI. He pled guilty to it, and he has no other criminal record history. He wants to travel. It's just not a condition that's going to prevent issues with traveling. Now, that all said, I have a couple questions for you. He's pled guilty. Um, did he pay his fines? Is there anything else left to do with the DUI? Is he on probation, or are there any restrictions for him in traveling? These are all these little nuances that could be in there, that if I say, yes, under immigration law, a DUI conviction is not, he should be fine coming back in, but there are other questions that need to be answered, and make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's crossed, especially now, to make sure that he's coming back into the United States prepared to show that, yes, I got a DUI, I'm guilty, here's my paperwork, it's all done, I paid my fine, um, that's it. And so just make sure all of those other things are taken care of, and if he has any other type of criminal record history. I'm only speaking to
Mhm.
the DUI.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that too, if there were any other charges that went along with it or whether it was just a standalone DUI. And just as a side note, I don't know if he has any interest in becoming a US citizen, but typically when you have a DUI conviction, there's a jail sentence that is suspended, and that suspension is usually for a period of 1 or 2 years, sometimes even 3. And so, that naturalization will be on hold until that good behavior period is
Yep.
completed. So if he had like a 3-year good behavior period, then he's gonna be at least 3 years delayed in naturalizing.
Yeah, and this is a person who's asking about her dad. And I know a lot of people whose parents have not yet become US citizens. And so I encourage you to encourage your family members, your dad, to apply for US citizenship. As John mentioned, if he's still on probation, he's not eligible to apply for citizenship because these are these are questions that we get, and sometimes it's not a DUI, sometimes it's something more serious. Sometimes it's even, we have Teresa, I'm gonna read Teresa's question, staying outside of the United States for too long, right? Not being able to come back in as a permanent resident because, they think that you have abandoned your green card. So, there are ways to lose your permanent residency, and just because you have been a permanent resident for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years doesn't mean you can't be removed from the United States. Even registering to vote accidentally, voting in a federal election, that's you be removed from the United States for that. So, we've always encouraged people to apply for US citizenship. I'll go ahead and get on my US citizenship soapbox right now real quick, because let's face it, some of the reasons why you're not applying for US citizenship is because I'm probably gonna move back to my country. Okay? Do you wanna come back here whenever you want to visit your children and your grandchildren? That's not a valid excuse, right? Um, the other reasons, um, usually deal with no time, procrastination, and, it's too expensive. So, all of these reasons are invalid. If you have a real reason why you don't want to become a US citizen after being here and living in the United States for, 5, 10, 15 years, and your family's here, your business is here, your job is here, please send me a direct message through Facebook. Send Gardner Mendoza, "Come to me with a real reason why you cannot apply for US citizenship, and I will send you my favorite book." Okay? And 20 bucks. I want a real reason why someone cannot apply for US citizenship or won't, and, I will reward you for coming up with a really great reason why. But please apply for US citizenship. We have seen families torn apart because something bad happened. Maybe you guys know this, but sometimes good people do bad things. Sometimes
It's a bad night.
it's a bad night, a bad morning, and we're all human and it happens. So, we've seen families get torn apart, and it's heartbreaking. It is really heartbreaking. It's happened really early on in my career, and, I can't I it's hard for me to even think about what happened to this family where, the mom got deported because she wasn't a citizen. So,
Yeah, and just briefly while we're on this topic, you really wanna be careful if you're not a US citizen, if you do have a criminal charge, I would highly, highly recommend that you hire a criminal defense lawyer who knows immigration law or is willing to consult with an immigration attorney about the potential immigration consequences of the conviction.
yep,
DUI doesn't get you removed from the country, but a lot of things can. And so if you haven't pled guilty to anything yet or been it's worth it to have an immigration attorney working with your criminal defense
yep,
lawyer to make sure that they can, thread that needle so that whatever happens, the prosecutor and police are happy with it, but you don't come out of the courthouse and then just have the next shoe drop. You get out of the country, right?
Right.
Because it's really, and it's complicated. I mean, obstruction of justice is an immigration problem. Resisting arrest, not an immigration problem. Go, try to get your head around that.
And it's varies by state. It depends on the statute. It depends on the language of the statute. One theft is a really big problem. I mean, theft is a problem. Theft is a problem for permanent residents traveling outside the United States and trying to come back in. Marijuana convictions are a serious problems for permanent residents who leave the country and try to come back in. So you got to be really careful.
Yeah.
And sometimes certain things make you inadmissible to come back in as a permanent resident, but don't necessarily make you deportable. And what can fix it is applying for U.S. citizenship and wiping that slate clean. But of course, if you have any type of criminal convictions, charges, anything like that, as John mentioned, you definitely need to immigration lawyer up along with your criminal defense attorney, and definitely before you apply for U.S. citizenship, you definitely need to lawyer up. So.
Yeah, and the DUI, the father, same thing. Even having an immigration lawyer consulting with that attorney would have been helpful, because I used to do it all the time when I would make certain arguments to prosecutors and judge to try to keep that probation period as short as possible, even if it meant a higher fine, because I knew that my client was going to want to naturalize and wasn't going to want to wait 3 years. They only wanted to wait 1 year.
Right, exactly. And it's just a lot of the times it has to do with family members too. Like, who are you petitioning for? Who's counting on you to become a U.S. citizen because you want to petition for them? Is it your parent? Is it a spouse? Is it your child under the age of 21? So just things to think about, guys. Life is busy. We know. John and I are, we're really great at our jobs. We have a wonderful team and a great business, but sometimes things slip by for us outside of our work, right? I can name a dozen things that I'm just like, oh, okay, we forgot to do that. Like making regular checkup appointments, haircut appointments for our kid. I mean, there's so many things that
not for me.
Yeah, not for John, but so we understand. We totally get it. This is just one thing. It's over here. You don't want to deal with it. Some people right now, it's not a good time to become a U.S. citizen. They say this because look who's the president right now. He hates people, immigrants, da 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 da, whatever. It is a great time to apply for U.S. citizenship right now. I'm not going to promise you because I don't know for sure, but the test is going to change and the test is going to be harder. That happened the last time in the first Trump administration. The test got harder and then it changed back. But anyway, so think about it. Box over. Stepping down now.
Okay.
Great question. Thank you. All right. We have a really long question here, and I'm not going to put it on the screen, but I'm going to go ahead and read it. This is from Teresa. She says, my mom holds a permanent resident card, which is valid until October of this year. So October 2025. However, she overstayed in the Philippines and has not returned to the United States since 2020. So she has been out in the United States for almost 5 years. She wishes to travel again. We are thinking of voluntarily surrendering her green card. How do we go about the process? Can she surrender her green card at any U.S. port of entry? Will she be allowed entry to the United States after surrendering her green card? So there's a lot going on in this question. Why did your mom stay out for so long? Is she trying to abandon her permanent residency? Did she stay out because of things outside of her control? For this question, I would say give her office a call, and maybe she's eligible to get a returning resident where she doesn't have to turn in a green card. I mean, the question I have in my mind is, how is she trying to come back into the United States if she's going to surrender her card? She's going to have to get some sort of another visa if she's not from, yeah, she's going to have to get another visa in order to enter. But this happens. So sometimes you petition for mom or dad, and let's say they're like in the 65 to 80-year-old range, and they immigrate to the United States, and it's really just not their cup of tea, right? They spend more time outside of the country, um, outside of the United States than in the United States, and then finally, you know what? I'm going to stay in the Philippines. I like it here more. I prefer it here. So, mom, if she really wants to give up her green card and abandon the green card, she can do that at the embassy. But I have a couple of other questions though before you actually do that, because it sounds like mom is trying to visit. I've actually had this before, and client's mom turned her green card in. She was given a tourist visa because, obviously she's not a immigrant and risk turning a green card in. They gave her a tourist visa. Mom came in and out, and then mom got a little bit older and decided that she actually wanted to come back to the United States permanently. So we actually had to file for her green card again. So before turning in, I would just like to know what the goals are, what the ultimate, what your mom wants to do and what you want to see happen. So, but it's a really good question. Thank you. Take that one.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure about this one. Let's get your thoughts. Edith Pisa wants to know what happens if the IRS gives the ITIN number to ICE.
I haven't heard anything about that. I haven't heard. I may have heard it. I don't remember. It seems kind of vague to me. So the question is, I have an ITIN number, an individual tax identification number, and the IRS issues ITIN numbers, so people who can't get a social security number can actually file for taxes. So can file their taxes. The question, I think, goes to these agencies sharing information, and that has never been a concern before. I don't know if it's going to be a concern now. If IRS is sharing the ITINs with ICE and the people who own the ITIN numbers, right? The identification that goes behind the ITIN number, that's going to be a serious problem. I just don't see that happening, but crazier things have happened, like COVID. But I don't know. I mean, if that were the case, then ICE would have your information. They would have to make some assumptions about you, right? They would have to make an assumption that, okay, well, just because you have an ITIN doesn't mean you're undocumented, right? I mean, you could be a permanent resident of the United States and your family lives in Mexico, and you're getting ITINs for your family members, so you can put them on your tax returns, and maybe they're here on a tourist visa and they're visiting you and they have ITINs. They're not out of status or undocumented. So that would be bad. I think that would be just bad all the way around, because again, people who have ITINs are actually, the reason is so they can pay taxes. And I don't know what actually the number is, but undocumented people who are undocumented and working, they pay tons and tons of money into taxes and never get that money back. I don't know. We will come back next week with how many billions of dollars that undocumented immigrants pay into our social security system and never actually get back. That's a side note. I don't know the answer to the question, but I think it would be bad for the government, for you, for everyone involved. All right. If they went after, again, the assumption is ICE is going to go after these people.
Right.
Okay. Do you see this administration allowing all TPS to expire while in office? That is, they won't extend any of the TPS once they expire. I don't know. No. I mean, it's hard to say. Some for sure, right?
Some
I mean,
for
we already
sure.
know.
And I don't think it's impossible. It's definitely not impossible. There's no question that this administration is really trying to shock the system. Things up. So I wouldn't be that shocked if it happened. But right now,
Okay, John is a lot more pessimistic than I am.
right now, I mean, there hasn't been too much talk about all of it, but yeah, I mean, totally see that happening. Of course, I guess the question is, do we see it happening? Not could it happen? No, I don't see it
All-
happening all, but I think it's possible.
I think some for sure. Some's already happened.
Yeah, some
so.
for sure. Some has already happened. We had a similar question here on TikTok. Do a crystal ball. I saw something that said they are looking to potentially deport green card holders.
What is that? Just wanted to exit out. John's playing a game on TikTok.
It's,
What is it for?
it's some sort of a verification.
No.
There we go. It was testing to make sure we were still
Live?
Still live. Yeah.
Oh, okay. We are still live.
Saw something that said they're looking to potentially deport green card holders. Can they do that?
Green card holders can be deportable, yes. If you, as we mentioned before, if you've committed a crime that's a deportable crime, then yes, they can put you in removal proceedings. Yeah, absolutely. Green card holders are deportable depending on certain things. If you've if you stayed outside of the United States for too long, you're not deportable, but you might not be able to come back in. They may say that your green card has been abandoned by you and referred to an immigration judge in order to sort it all out. So you're in removal proceedings, right? Now, that said, if you're talking about the run of why do I say this?
Just across the board,
the run of the mill,
everyone who has a green
permanent
card.
resident.
No.
If you're talking about people like my mom, right, who was a permanent resident for a very long time before she became a U.S. citizen for 30 years, for all the excuses I mentioned earlier, right? No time, no money, procrastination, don't know how to fill out the form, who never committed any crimes. She, period. And so she was not a deportable permanent resident because there is no reason to put her in removal proceedings. So if you're talking about like, okay, all permanent residents from this year to this year with last name ending in A through M in this line, y'all are getting deported. No, that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. So hopefully that answers your question. And again, marijuana use is really bad conviction. Not good.
Yeah, be careful,
Especially when you're traveling back into the United States.
It's become legal in so many states now that there's a large misconception that it's legal. It's not legal under federal law. And so if it's not legal under federal law, then it's still an immigration problem. So be careful.
Yeah. You got to be really careful.
I used to make the joke that if you want to smoke marijuana, you need to become a citizen first.
Right. I tell people when our clients get green cards, I give them a call, and that is actually one of the things that I say. It's like, if you want to smoke marijuana, you're gonna have to wait till you become a U.S. citizen. So call us when you're ready for that. Yeah. Let's see here. Question from Facebook. This is from Etienne. Hi, I'm trying to get my citizenship, but don't know which application I need to apply. I came here when I was 17 years old, and my dad is already a U.S. citizen. Do I fill out the N600 or the N400? So if you're deriving your U.S. citizenship from your parent, then you would not be using the N400. That is for someone who is applying for citizenship on their own, taking the test. But if you're deriving from a parent, well, that's awesome. Then go give your dad a big hug for becoming a U.S. citizen before you turn 18. Like, give him a really big hug because that's a big deal.
A, because that's a big deal. B, dads love getting hugs
from their daughters.
From their daughters. I know.
We have 3 daughters.
We have 3.
No, that's
for those
awesome.
who joined us super late, we're married.
I'm Radlin Mendoza. immigration attorney, co-founder of Gardner Mendoza Immigration. This is my husband and law partner, John Gardner. Nice to see you guys reintroducing. But yeah, that's awesome. Congrats. He paved a good, easy way for you. You can also just directly apply for the US passport. But I do recommend filing for the certificate of citizenship, because if you want to do anything military related, federal government related, well, maybe not federal government jobs, maybe you should stay away from it now, but you're probably gonna need a certificate of citizenship, and your US passport is not gonna get it done. We've had people who their parents became US citizens before they turned 18. Their parents applied for the US passport, didn't want to spend the money on the N600. Um, 15 years later, they've joined the military or federal government, or needs security clearance or whatever, and they're asking, and it's urgent, like, you need to get this document to us, or you're not gonna get this job, or you're gonna not get the security clearance, and you're gonna get downgraded, whatever. And that application can take over a year. So I highly recommend you do both. And since your dad, he can pay for both too.
All right. We're at our hour, but actually we're over the hour, but we can grab one more TikTok question here.
Yes, love TikTok.
And then we're going to sign out of here, okay? But Gaetano One's been here for a long time. You want to know if he can renew his green card, if he hasn't filed his taxes for a few years.
Yes. Citizenship is a different issue. So when you renew your green card, and I'm talking about renewing a 10-year card, not a 2-year conditional resident card, right? So, Gaetano, you know that you need to do that with Form I-90, and it can absolutely help you with that if you need assistance. But when you go to apply for US citizenship, and if you've been here for this whole time, hopefully you've been thinking, man, I need to get my taxes taken care of so I can apply for citizenship. You have to get your taxes taken care of before you file for citizenship. If you have to go on an IRS payment plan, that's totally fine. Get on the payment plan. We can file you a citizenship even if you're on a payment plan. But they're not asking whether you've ever failed to file a tax return on the I-90, so you are good to go with that.
Get to it, Gaetano. Call us.
Yeah.
All right, give us a call. Okay, everyone.
Guys, thank you so much.
We're done for tonight. We will be here next Monday at 8 p.m. Come early. Bring your questions. Remember, it's first come, first serve, just like DQ.
Dairy Queen. And USAF.
Thumbs up.
Bye, guys.
See you
Thank
next
you.
week, all right?